The 3rd of November 1944. Dawn breaks over Metz, France. Inside the shattered remains of what used to be a bakery, Private First Class Michael Donovan presses his eye against the cold steel of his M1903 Springfield's 8X scope. Through the swirling morning fog, German positions slowly emerge like phantoms taking solid form in a nightmare you can't wake up from. 22 years old, 6 months of constant combat, 14 confirmed kills. And yet, Donovan knows with absolute certainty that he's about to become the 24th American sniper to die in this godforsaken city in just 3 weeks. The Germans haven't just occupied Metz. They've transformed it into something far more terrifying. A precision-engineered killing field designed with one singular, horrifying purpose: the systematic execution of Allied snipers. Think about that for a moment. Not a battlefield, not a combat zone, a hunting ground, and American snipers were the prey. Donovan's rifle could hit targets 800 yards away with devastating accuracy. His training at Fort Benning had been absolutely exemplary. Top of his class, perfect scores, everything by the book. But none of that mattered anymore, because every single time an American sniper looked through his scope at a German position, another German sniper, one he couldn't see, one he'd never spot, was already looking directly at him, already pulling the trigger. The question haunting Donovan was brutally simple and far more damning than any tactical puzzle he'd ever faced. How do you kill an enemy you cannot see, when the very act of searching for him makes you visible to someone else? The Wehrmacht had perfected something truly diabolical. They called it the Doppelstellung, the double position. 2 snipers operating 30 to 50 yards apart, firing in perfectly alternating sequence to prevent any chance of triangulation. The moment you spotted one of them, his partner was already acquiring you in his crosshairs. The mathematics were absolutely brutal and completely unforgiving. Donovan needed 12 to 15 seconds to acquire a target and squeeze the trigger. German snipers needed the exact same amount of time, but here's the thing. They fired first. Always. Every single time. The 5th Infantry Division had lost 23 snipers trying to crack this impossible problem. Corporal James Bradley, 9 confirmed kills. 24 years old. Died on October 18th. When a 7.92mm Mauser round punched clean through his skull from a factory window 400 yards distant. Private First Class Robert Chen took a devastating chest shot on October 29th and spent his last 40 agonizing minutes drowning in his own blood while his spotter held him, helpless, listening to him die. The pattern was undeniable, impossible to ignore. American snipers were being spotted and killed before they could even acquire their first target. Command's solution? Predictable and utterly useless. Stay mobile. Change positions constantly. Never remain static for more than a few minutes. Standard doctrine. Standard thinking. And it didn't work because the fundamental problem wasn't about movement. It was about awareness. German snipers had been watching American positions for minutes, sometimes hours, before ever being seen themselves. They owned the battlefield's spatial intelligence completely. Every sight line, every blind spot, every angle of approach, they knew it all. And they exploited one critical, devastating weakness in American methodology. A weakness that no amount of movement could ever fix. Donovan understood the geometry of his own inevitable death with crystalline, terrible clarity. His magnificent 8X scope, the thing that gave him precision and power, narrowed his entire field of view to exactly 8 degrees. Imagine staring through a toilet paper tube at a world that extends 360 degrees around you in every direction. At 400 yards, that powerful magnification gave him a field of view of just 50 feet. Everything else, the flanking positions, the elevated angles, the rubble piles concealing secondary shooters, all of it existed in a massive blind zone that his peripheral vision couldn't possibly penetrate while he was looking through that scope. German snipers had built their entire counter-sniper doctrine around this single geometric vulnerability. It was genius, in the most horrifying way imaginable, while American snipers focused forward through their scopes, completely tunnel-visioned. Metz teams maneuvered into flanking positions and fired directly into those blind spots. Clean, efficient, elegant, in the way that death machines are elegant, and it was killing American snipers at a catastrophic rate of 2 to 1. On the night of November 2nd, working completely alone in the ruins of a hotel that German artillery had reduced to nothing but skeletal walls and shattered dreams, Donovan constructed something his battalion commander would later call the stupidest field modification I've ever seen authorized. He took a standard military-issue shaving mirror, 4 inches by 6 inches, the kind every single soldier carried for morning routines that felt absurdly, almost insultingly civilian in the context of industrial slaughter happening all around them, and he mounted it directly onto the left side of his rifle scope. The angle was absolutely critical, 45 degrees, positioned exactly 8 inches forward of his eye position so it would sit naturally in his peripheral vision while he aimed through the scope. The entire installation used nothing but electrical tape stripped from signal wire. It took him 40 painstaking minutes to get the balance exactly right, to ensure the added weight wouldn't throw off his rifle's zero, and to test that he could actually see behind him without moving his head even a fraction or breaking his sight picture. The modification violated approximately 7 different Army regulations regarding unauthorized equipment alterations. Maybe more. Donovan honestly didn't care anymore. Bradley was dead. Chen was dead. 21 other American snipers were dead. He was almost certainly next on the list. Official channels had produced exactly 0 solutions. Survival demanded innovation. The kind that exists completely outside the bureaucratic machinery that was systematically getting his friends killed. November 3rd, 6:47 a.m. Donovan and his new partner, Private Sam Martinez, just 19 years old, 3 weeks as a sniper, 0 kills, and visibly terrified, set up their position in the destroyed bakery overlooking a factory complex 400 yards in the distance. German snipers controlled that factory. Everyone knew it. The question that mattered was where exactly they were positioned and when they would fire. At 7:23 a.m., Donovan acquired a target through his scope, a German sniper on the 3rd floor of the factory, visible for just a few precious seconds as he adjusted his position near a blown-out window. Donovan's finger moved smoothly to the trigger, standard procedure running through his mind like a mantra. Acquire, breathe, squeeze. But then in his peripheral vision, the mirror showed him something that made his blood turn to ice. Behind them, approximately 60 degrees off their rear flank, a second German sniper was aiming directly at their exact position from a rubble pile they'd completely dismissed as empty and harmless. The doppelstelling in perfect, lethal action. One sniper draws your attention forward, while his partner kills you from an angle you never saw coming. Donovan whispered a single word to Martinez. 6 o'clock. Martinez pivoted instantly. They fired simultaneously. Donovan at the factory window, Martinez at the flanking position. 2 kills in 5 seconds flat. The Germans never got a single shot off. The engagement lasted 4 brutal hours. German snipers, completely confused and disoriented by the Americans' seemingly impossible awareness of flanking positions, kept trying variations of their standard doctrine, different angles, different timing, different positions, and each time, every single time, the mirror telegraphed their movement before they could fire. By noon, Donovan and Martinez had killed 6 German snipers, 4 for Donovan, 2 for Martinez. That little shaving mirror had given them something the Wehrmacht simply couldn't counter: 360-degree spatial awareness while maintaining full offensive capability. They could look forward and backward simultaneously. The geometric advantage that had been killing Americans for weeks had completely reversed. By November 8th, just 5 days later, Donovan had personally installed mirrors on 9 rifles. Working quietly through the battalion sniper platoon, the modification spread through unofficial channels the way all real battlefield innovation spreads, not through proper forms and official approvals, but through desperate soldiers using whatever materials they could scavenge: broken glass, polished metal, chrome pieces torn from destroyed vehicles. Nobody asked permission. Nobody filed paperwork. They just stopped dying at catastrophic rates. The statistics told the story with brutal, undeniable efficiency. In October, before the mirrors, American snipers in Metz lost 2 men for every German they killed. By mid-November, after mirror adoption spread, that ratio had completely inverted. 4 German snipers killed for every single American lost. Captain Robert Hayes, the battalion's sniper platoon commander, inspected Donovan's rifle on November 10th. He saw the mirror, studied it carefully, and to his enormous credit, made it official battalion policy despite its completely unauthorized origin. By November 12th, every sniper in the battalion carried a mirror. German counter-sniper doctrine, built over years of brutal Eastern Front experience, had been neutralized by a shaving mirror and electrical tape. In December 1944, a training inspector noticed the mirrors and reported the modification to Army Command. In January 1945, an evaluation team from Aberdeen Proving Ground conducted extensive field tests and confirmed what Donovan's continued survival had already proven beyond any doubt. The mirrors improved sniper survivability by approximately 300% in contested urban environments. They recommended standardized production and immediate integration into official doctrine. There was just one problem. Donovan's name was completely omitted from the official reports. The innovation was credited to Army evaluators who'd arrived after hundreds of soldiers were already using it, after it had already saved countless lives. Captain Hayes tried desperately to include Donovan in the paperwork. The paperwork mysteriously disappeared. Donovan declined to file any complaints. He'd solved the problem to save lives, not to collect medals or recognition. The war in Europe ended on the 8th of May 1945. Michael Donovan survived 11 months of brutal combat, with 47 confirmed kills. That little mirror saved his life at least 6 documented times, and probably far more that he never even knew about. Martinez and dozens of other snipers survived the war specifically because they could see threats they weren't directly looking at. After the war ended, Donovan returned to civilian life without any fanfare whatsoever. He never sought recognition for the mirror modification. As optical technology improved over the decades and military doctrine evolved, the specific innovation gradually faded into obscurity. Just another field expedient solution that worked brilliantly until something better eventually replaced it. In 1987, 42 years later, a military historian discovered references to Donovan's mirror buried in forgotten after-action reports. He tracked down Martinez and several other veterans who'd survived because of it. A detailed article was published in a military history journal in 1989 documenting the entire story. Almost nobody read it. Michael Donovan died on the 7th of June 2001 at age 79. His obituary made absolutely no mention of the mirror or his role in completely reversing American counter-sniper casualties in Metz. His funeral was attended by several men in their 70s, men whose lives had been saved by a simple piece of glass and electrical tape. They knew. They remembered. Today, the National Infantry Museum at Fort Benning displays an M1903 Springfield with a mirror modification similar to Donovan's original design. But here's the thing that should bother you. The placard next to it doesn't mention his name, not once. Instead, it describes the innovation as field expedient modifications developed during urban combat operations, 1944 to 1945. Anonymous. Official. Sanitized completely of the desperate creativity that happens when soldiers refuse to die according to doctrine. The ultimate reason the mirror worked wasn't technological sophistication or brilliant engineering. It worked because one 22-year-old soldier, watching his friends die from a geometric vulnerability that command refused to acknowledge, decided that survival mattered infinitely more than regulations. In a war defined by massive industrial production and centralized planning, a shaving mirror changed counter-sniper doctrine more effectively than any official program ever could. That truth that the most important innovations often come from soldiers desperate enough to ignore the rules and think for themselves remains just as uncomfortable today as it was in 1944, which is probably exactly why 80 years later, Michael Donovan's name still doesn't appear on that museum placard. Some heroes are remembered, some are written into history books, and some, like Michael Donovan, save hundreds of lives, change military doctrine forever, and are forgotten by everyone except the men who lived because of what they created. This was one of those stories. Remember his name? Private First Class Michael Donovan, the soldier who refused to die by the book.